this year. For Sam Black, well, he's a platinum level pro, a fantastic Magic player. He's got a basic planes. He's going to start off with a 1-drop here in Mardu Woe Reaper.
All right.
We got a reader. We got a reader,
Woe
boys.
Reaper. Okay, well, right now it has no text on it. It's a 2-1 for 1. When you play a warrior, you can exile a creature from a graveyard and gain a life. You can ignore that, at least in this matchup.
You saw Lumbering Falls there from Joe. Sam's going to come across for 2. We'll see if he does have a follow-up. It appears he does.
And I would have to think for the ramp deck, any deck that's playing multiple 2-1s for 1, it feels like it's going to be a tough matchup. I mean, he's playing cards like Winds of Kalsisma in the main deck because he's weak to aggressive strategies, and Sam's very aggressive.
Kithian was his turn 2 play. Here's a Plains. There's a Chief of the Edge. Yeah. Here's an attack for 6. We might have time for the backup match. Just saying.
Some mana issues for Sam here. You notice only 1 black mana source means he was not able to make the copy of Bloodsoaked Champion that turn.
It looks like we have a Nissa's Pilgrimage. We don't see this one a lot. It's going to search with a basic forest and then allow Herrera to play a basic forest. So you search your library for up to 2 basic forest cards, reveal those cards, and put 1 on the battlefield tapped and the rest in your hand. If you got Spell Mastery, you can get 3. So think of kind of a makeshift Cultivate, I suppose.
Yeah, it's Cultivate for just forests, but it has some upside. Sometimes you get a 3rd card. And I mean, the difficulty about blue-green here is that it's not like Joseph Herrera is ramping into a Targa or some, like, he doesn't have sweepers in the deck. It is Ugin. He needs to ramp into Ugin and do it fast, and that is his only way to deal with Sam's cards.
Yeah, that one's 8 mana, too. That one is very, very expensive.
Well, that's how we play Winds of Kalsisma, because maybe we're going to need that if we want to get to 8 mana in time.
And you mentioned he's got 4 main deck copies, so he's got a shot of getting to it. You see Sam Black's hand here. He's got a Valorous Stance, among other options. He's going to attack here, will Sam, with the creature. So this will attack for 3/6. Let's make it 8 total. Herrera's going to fall down to 5. Kithian is going to transform. Oh, excuse me, it's 9. I apologize. Here's a Bloodsoaked Champion. Now you see Joe taking a look at the transform version because we don't see this Gideon very often.
This is the one of in Sam's deck.
There's a Bloodsoaked Champion. Now he did draw a copy of Winds of Kalsisma.
All right, well that'll buy him a turn. We mentioned he needs to make it to Ugin alive. It's his only way to sweep the board, but it is definitive at that. It's not like Sam will burn him out. Ugin can -2 repeatably, so it'll just be a Plague Wind every turn.
So there's Gideon Battleforged. Again, we don't see this one very often. We see basically every other Flip Planeswalker from Magic Origins besides this one.
So the big one, and the one that we'll see Sam here, is the 0 abilities. Until end of turn, Gideon becomes a 4/4 human soldier with Indestructible. And it still has that damage prevention that you see on all of the Gideons.
There's the Winds. That'll play the role of Time Walk here. A Fog certainly necessary here for Joe.
But he's going to need one of these every turn until he casts Ugin.
The follow-up here for Sam is a Bloodshin Rager. He'll pass a turn back. Herrera will draw a card. Does he have a 6th land and Part the Waterveil? Does he have another Winds of Kalsisma? Does he have anything?
Well, I know he has a lot of explosive vegetations and Nissa's Pilgrimages, so maybe not.
There's Nissa's Pilgrimage.
Yeah, that one's Spell Mastered now.
Okay. 3 forests. That's 1. There's 2. That's 3.
So it's technically 1 into play and 2 into hand. You see he tossed the second one into play because he hadn't made a land drop for the turn. Well, if he doesn't have another Winds of Kalsisma, he's going to be done on the next attack.
Yeah, that's really all that matters at this point, it feels like. Does he have a Fog effect? He's going to pass the turn back over to Black.
Yep, Winds and Ugin.
Sam's draw, I believe, a Mardu Strike Leader.
Well, that one's actually good. The fact that it can be dashed means that even if Ugin happens, Sam still has a source of damage.
Yep. Everybody's coming into the red zone, it appears. Well, Joe, do you have an answer or not? The answer is no. Sam Black's going to win again, number 1 here over Joseph Herrera, Black-White Warriors. Up a game here over Blue-Green Ramp, as these players are going to go to the drawing board here. Take a look at the sideboard. You see the records here for each player, 6-2-1, so a pretty important match between the two of them. For Joe Herrera, we saw just how important Winds of Kyle Sisma was. But he's also got 3 copies of Deathmist Raptor, 2 Pearl Legations, a Void Winnower, 3 Jotty Offshoots. I think that one's going to be pretty important here.
Yeah.
A Negate, 2 Disdainful Strokes, and then 3 copies of Dispel.
Yeah, so we'll go toward Jotty Offshoot. If Sam's playing a deck with 12 or 16 2-1s for 1, and 03 seems pretty key in the situation. This matchup is very difficult for Joseph, so he's going to need to really rely on cards like Jotty Offshoot to do work for him. I imagine he would even go to something like Deathmist Raptor. He has 3 of those in the sideboard, and though it's not particularly efficient, it can block and maybe trade with Sam's cards, and that's more than most of the things he's playing.
On the other side of things here for Sam, a lot of 2s and 1s. Valor's Stance, Master of the Unseen, Arashan Cleric, Disdainful Stroke, Ultimate Price, Secure the Ways. Those are all 2-ofs to go along with a Gideon Ally, a Zendikar, a Negate, and a Self-Inflicted Wound.
Well, on Sam's side, I'd be interested in Disdainful Stroke. Joseph's clearly playing a ramp strategy. I mean, a Disdainful Stroke on a Part the Water Veil or on an Ugin would be excellent. And to that effect, I wouldn't be surprised to see Negate come in alongside it. But other than that, this is a great matchup for Sam. I don't want to get too far away from the main deck plan.
Yeah, it's interesting. You don't expect to see Disdainful Strokes come from this deck, but when you're playing 4 Flooded Strands and 4 Polluted Deltas to help fix your mana, you get to kind of free roll Prairie Stream and a Sunken Hollow. And that means that you can, in a roundabout way, free roll some blue counter spells.
The whole model we see with all these fetch lands, battle lands of 2-color decks that then get to splash their 3rd or 4th.
It's a pretty nice freedom available given the mana bases here in Standard. We see players take much more extreme takes with 4 and 5 color mana bases, but Sam basically free rolling a couple counter spells in his sideboard. And as you mentioned, it does look to be a pretty positive matchup here. That game was pretty one-sided. And for Joe, he's going to have to ramp a little bit harder than that.
Yeah, well, it's not just ramping. So what Joe's trying to do is he in a lot of ways is almost like the blue Time Walk decks we see in Modern, where he's really not doing anything on the early turns, and then he's hoping to chain spells together that all are very similar. So, we could say like a Winds of Kyle Sisma into a Part the Water Veil, into something like a Dig Through Time, pending another Winds of Kyle Sisma into another Part the Water Veil, and then eventually Ugin. He's trying to just take every turn, I guess starting on turn 5.
Well, as these players who shuffle up here for game number 2, Joe Herrera will be on the play. We're going to talk about our Season 3 Invitational Champion. That's Alex Bastecki. And, of course, when he did defeat Steve Mann in the finals in what was one of our best 5-game sets ever here on the SCG Tour, he earned $10,000 invite to our Players' Championship next weekend. And, of course, this Germ Token. A couple ways to go about getting it. All Open Series players, all 5K Premier IQ players, and then in all orders from StarCityGames.com, $5 and above. You can do that, of course, on the website or at our dealer booth here on the SCG Tour. Alex Bastecki, our Season 3 Invitational Champion. Congratulations to him. And we will be seeing him next weekend at the Players' Championship. He's kind of the wild card of the tournament. Don't have any clue what he's going to play across the 3 formats, but I'm very excited to find out.
Yeah, and we do see that because of the Invitational winners making it in. We had that last year. Derek Sheets making it to the Invitational. No one really knew what he was going to bring to the table. I think Alex is that player this time around.
Yep. You can kind of put some players on specific things. So Bastecki, outside of maybe Grixis Delver, I've got no clue what to expect. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, and we don't even know that. We're going off that based on that's the deck he won the Invitational with. But it's, I'm not sure that that's even the only deck in his range, for example.
For Sam Black, his range pretty wide as far as deck building is concerned. Black-White Warriors here in Standard. Amulet Bloom and Lantern Control, some of his favorites in Modern. He is playing Lantern in Modern this weekend.
So you see players like Brad Nelson who have really wide ranges. Sam takes it to a whole nother level. He plays a wide range of decks, but he will frequently play decks that are not in the main tier. His last Standard deck before Black-White Warriors, Mono White Devotion, was a big fan of that.
Yep, played the World Championships.
Yeah.
And had a heck of a run with it there. So anything is in Sam's range. That's one of the things I enjoy about watching him play, reading his content, and everything else that is involved with him is he'll try anything. He's very open-minded. And the Lantern Control deck, certainly in his range to play.
Oh, that...
I kind of want to sleeve it up now. I really do.
Yeah, it's really enjoyable to play. Playing against it's miserable.
Yeah, that's not great. No one really enjoys that part of it, but I do like the idea of playing that deck and seeing just how good it is in Modern. It's a Grand Prix winning deck.
Yeah. Won Grand Prix Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
In the hands of Zach Elsick.
Both players are going to take a look at their openers here. Herrera looks like he's happy, as is Black, so we're underway here in game number 2. Black will take a draw step, picked up a copy of Stasis Snare. He'll start by sacrificing a Flooded Strand. I imagine basic planes on the way.
Stasis Snare is a card I'm interested to see in Sam's deck post-board. There are not very many permanents out of Joseph, and I would have thought that perhaps Sam would have boarded something like that out.
I think the thought is, I didn't see anything, but you have to have something that you're working towards.
I suppose on the other side, Stasis Snare does something, whereas, you know, the 4 Silk Wraps are going to be the first cards to leave. Maybe we just, there's only so many things we can board out.
Yeah. There's an island. Here's a Rattleclaw Mystic. So now we're going to head back Sam Black's way. He'll take a draw. Picked up another copy of Stasis Snare.
A little too much of that, but...
Chief of the Edge going to come down. Here come the beatdowns.
Yeah, and without a thought, Joe takes 3. No consideration of trading there. Which I guess when your deck is just trying to get to 6 mana, it's very hard to make any trade convincing, even though he's saving a lot of damage by trading that off early.
There's Skyline Cascade.
Yeah, that's a really interesting plan as part. Skyline Cascade, part of that cycle of lands, you know, your Fertile Thickets, your Mortuary Mires, not a Battle for Zendikar, but it does freeze down the Mardu Woe Reaper.
Yeah, for a turn, that thing is locked up. I think the follow-up there was a Jace, a very expensive one, mind you. And now here's an attack.
Big respect on Sam's side for the mana on Joe's side. You saw Stasis Snare actually hitting Rattleclaw Mystic over Jace.
Herrera's already down to 14. Herrera going to activate his Jace. San Diego Comic-Con Jace, by the way.
Yeah, those all black cards.
Yeah. Forest down. Here's a Morph. It's a Den Protector. There's a Lumbering Falls. Pass the turn back. I suppose it could be a Rattleclaw Mystic as well.
Yeah, he actually does have multiple Morphs in the deck, so Sam has to watch out for that. Rattleclaw Mystic, remember, when morphed and flipped up, is actually a ramp of 2.
Well, Stasis Snare will let us find out what the Morph is. It was Den Protector. Down that goes. Here come the beatdowns. In for 6. Herrera's going to fall down to 8.
And yeah, I do love that warrior synergy going on in Sam's deck. The fact that all his creatures are 1s and 2 drops that hit for 3 is really not to be messed around with.
Shambling Vent the follow-up. We're going to head back Herrera's way.
Well, Vent is points of damage number 7 and 8.
Yep. Could present lethal very quickly here, can't Sam? Herrera's never really been able to get anything going in this match. Can he do it in maybe this game? There is an island.
It's interesting. So he has enough mana to activate Lumbering Falls as a blocker, though I'm sure that's not what he wants to be doing with his lands.
At least that'll do a nice job of keeping Shambling Vent in check. But I agree with you. I don't think that's what he wants to be doing. Here's an activation of Jace. Time to draw and discard.
A bit of a resource assessment here. He could leave Jace back as a blocker. Was looking for a specific card there. Don't believe he found it.
Here are the attacks. 2 3-power creatures coming into the red zone yet again.
Yeah, Sam sitting back on Disdainful Stroke. Opting to go for a win in 2 turns rather than 1.
Lumbering Falls is going to get in front of Chief of the Edge. So Herrera's going to trade a land to get the Chief off the battlefield. Joe will fall down to 5.
And this is a big play. This is Bloodchin Rager from Sam. Now, if you aren't familiar with the card, that triggered ability on the attack is very good here, especially when we're looking at things like Jace to possibly chump block.
And the Rager counts itself, too. That's also worth noting. Each warrior.
Right, so Rager and Mardu Woe Reaper, both warriors. Shambling Vent and Mastery, they're not. So it looks to be a 2-turn clock as it stands. Sam's last card, Disdainful Stroke. He actually has not found the blue source yet. But I don't think there's much cause for concern. The fact that he got one of Joseph's lands last turn means we are still a turn off of Part the Water Veil.
There's a Shrine. And now here's a Jace. All right. That'll be card 4 in the graveyard. Now pass the turn back.
So I think Joseph's looking to do here is to block and loot with Jace. That will flip it.
This will be Gideon.
Oh, wow. Well, this may just be lethal. If Gideon makes an emblem, both the warriors,
Yep.
they can't be blocked. That's not 4 damage anymore. That's 6.
Here come the attackers. Someone's got to find a wins right now. An activation. Looks like it's another copy of Jace, and that's going to do it. Sam Black's going to win this match here over Joseph Herrera. 2-0. Black-White Warriors will dispatch this blue-green ramp deck pretty quickly and easily. And for Sam Black, he's going to move on to 7-2-1 here.
Yeah, I mean, that dominant, I mean, the blue-green ramp deck doing, you know, a powerful non-interactive strategy, but I just don't know if it's fast enough to compete with cards like Mardu Woe Reaper.
Yeah, this might be the worst matchup here for Joe Herrera's